So with a .338, I can shoot them in the hip, I can shoot them in the guts, or if I have the chance, I can do a typical double lung shot. But with the .338, and don't tell me this is unsporting and all this other baloney, I can shoot them right up the tutor as they're running away if I think it's a giant bull, and the .338 will anchor them. Folks, Tim Sundles here, and it's elk season in Idaho, Wyoming, Montana, Oregon, Washington. It's anywhere you can find good populations of elk. It's elk season, or elk season's right around the corner.
And we just got a great comment on one of our videos that we just love these comments.
Yeah, I had a guy call me a bald-faced liar again when I said in the 7mm Remington mag video that I'd killed 100 bull elk. Well, I just love this digital rudeness and ignorance that people practice. Look, I've been hunting elk since I was a teenager. I've killed elk in Oregon, Washington, Idaho, Wyoming, Colorado. Did I say Montana?
New Mexico, everywhere.
Yeah, I mean, and so if you're going to hunt multiple states like I did at one time in my life before we bought property in Africa, you have the opportunity to kill a lot of elk. Not only, and I know some people, some morons get on here and they can't think that far. So they've got the audacity to call me a liar. Not only that, but I used to fill my then wife's tag and 4 of my kids' tags elk hunting, unless the kids were coming with me, which the girls usually didn't, the boys did. And somebody's gonna go, well, that's illegal. Yes, it is. I don't give a shit. We had elk tags. We wanted to put meat in the freezer, or more importantly, give the meat to needy people. So the kids bought tags. If they didn't want to elk hunt, I killed the bulls and the meat went to the needy.
And who dictates what's legal and what's not, folks? Start paying attention to what you say is legal.
Yeah.
Is it right? That's the more important question for Tim and I. We're not about what the government calls legal or illegal. We're about what's right, morally and ethically.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you for saying that. So when you want to call me a liar, but you don't know me, you don't know my life, you don't know my activities, you're just making yourself out to be a fool. So elk season, my favorite elk cartridge, and the cartridges I've killed the most elk with. These are all .338 diameter bullets, but different cases, and I will show you as we proceed. This is my elk load right here. For years and years, I used the 225 grain Nosler partition at 2,800 feet a second, killed multiple elk with it. About half the time you'd recover the bullet on the offside of the animal, the other half the bullet would exit. Now I use the Barnes 210 grain tip triple shock, mostly because I have a relationship with Barnes. There was nothing wrong with the Nosler. The Barnes 210, I run at 2,900 feet a second in 22-inch barrels, and it's very much like the 225 grain Nosler in terms of penetration. I'm almost identical, really. Both bullets are excellent shooters. So let's start with this little cartridge display I have here. Here's a .340 Weatherby right there. And I probably killed 30, 40 bull elk with that cartridge. It's a .338 diameter bullet in a bigger case that requires a long magnum action. Here's the .338 Win Mag. And you can see the difference in case capacity. You're talking 15 grains of powder difference. For that extra 15 grains of powder, which is like a 20 to 25% powder increase, with this cartridge here, you can pick up 100 to 150 feet a second with like bullet weights in like barrel lengths. It's really the king of the 338s. I know there's a 338 Remington Ultra Mag out there. It's not very popular. It's not very known, and I don't even want to get into it. The 340 Weatherby was one of Roy Weatherby's early creations. That it's a stomper. These days, I tend to use the 338 Win Mag more because out to 500 yards, it's so ample on elk. I don't see any point in burning all the extra powder and the expensive brass and stuff. This is a 7mm Remington Magnum. Why is it here? Because the 338 Win Mag case was built off of the 7 Remington Mag, or vice versa, really, probably. And the 264 Remington Mag, which I don't have one here, they're all the same case. And the 458 Win Mag is the same case. So you've got the 264 Winchester Mag case, you've got the 7mm Remington Mag case, and the 338 Remington Mag case and the 458 Winchester Mag case, all built on the same case.
So explain how they get the case designs. Obviously, the one here on the end is very different looking than this. Just for the newbies, I'm speaking.
Well, they just take the shoulder out of it, straight wall it, and seat a 458 diameter bullet in it.
There you go, folks.
But it's the same case. They just straight wall it. And this cartridge, which I haven't mentioned yet, is the 338-06. And that's just an .6 case necked up to 338 caliber. And I've got a rifle here. We're going to talk about it. It's a rifle I've used a lot. So let's get started with the rifles. This is a 340 Weatherby that was built by High Tech Specialties. It was originally a 300 Weatherby back when Roy Weatherby was building these things on FN commercial Mausers. It was a 300 Weatherby. I shot the barrel out of it. I mean, it's not very hard with overbore cartridges, which means the bore diameter's pretty dang small for the case capacity. It's not very hard to shoot the barrel out of a 300 Weatherby. 800 rounds and the barrel's pretty much gone. So when I had it rebarreled and restocked, I just told Richard Scott at High Tech Specialties, I'm going back 40 years. I just said, go ahead and barrel this one to 340 Weatherby. And this became my primary elk rifle for a decade and a half, 2 decades. I used it a lot, which also means I killed a lot of coyotes with it because, coyotes are a target of opportunity. If you're out hunting, carrying a rifle all the time, you'll end up shooting coyotes with whatever you're carrying. This rifle now, even as a 340, I've started washing the throat out of it. The throat is really eroded the first inch. And the good news is that, and if you look at this bullet, you can see I seated it out past the crimp groove. The good news is the magazine box is long enough to afford me to seat bullets out. And, Buffalo Bore doesn't make 340 Weatherby ammo, so that's just strictly a personal hand load that I made for this gun. That's a 225 grain Barnes triple shock flat base bullet. When you get into eroding throats and stuff, sometimes flat base bullets will shoot better than bow tail bullets.
Point out the flat base bullet.
Well, you can't see it. It's seated down in the case.
Okay, but it's the one on the end.
Yeah, it's the 340 Weatherby. And frankly, if you limit your shots to 500 yards, the difference in drop between a flat base and a bow tail is negligible. I mean, they're a couple inches, big deal. So anyway, highly used. You can see all the places the stock is chipped. I've had this all over Alaska, all over the Rockies. It's been in multiple states. It's killed multiple elk. And of course, if I had a deer tag at the same time, I used it to hunt deer with. The rifle's really, really been around. I used it so much that at one time it was like an extension of my body.
And again, you can see all the loophole scopes.
Yeah. Loophole. This one's got a loophole on it too.
And that's not a paid advertisement. It's just the ones we like.
No, I have no correlation with loophole. I've tried to get them interested and they don't even respond to my emails or my messages. This loophole scope was given to me by Bruce Pettit, their president. And this is a 340 Weatherby built on a Winchester Model 70 action that I used to leave in Alaska because I would go to Alaska every year. So this rifle I just left at a friend's place and it was just always there with a bunch of ammo. I didn't have to transport it on an airplane. I've been using the 225 grain bullet in it, but I have discovered the 210 shoots way better. And for moose, elk, those kind of things. And this rifle killed several Alaska, Yukon moose, big bulls. It's got a short barrel. It's only 21.5 inches. It's just hyper accurate with that 210 grain load. Most of the killing I did with it was with the 225 grain, but very nice rifle. I love this rifle. I used it a lot as I did this. I used this one more.
You're a big advocate of synthetic stocks, so explain that.
Well, okay, so in Alaska, like this is a Jerry Miller custom-made rifle, 338. I wouldn't take this to Alaska if you paid me. This rifle's worth $25,000 or $30,000. Jerry Miller was the best custom builder in America for a long time. He died in his 90s, still building rifles. This was probably a 1980s build sometime in there. And I'll go over the virtues of this rifle. But with this beautiful wood stock, and the carbon steel that'll rust, I wouldn't carry that in Alaska if you paid me. It would work, but I'd have to be maintaining my rifle and taking it apart and oiling it down and then re-sighting it in when I put it back together. No, I go there to hunt. So of my 338 Win Mags, and you can see that there's ammo in the magazine box because I was using it all of last week. This is the one that I have for the last 15 years anyway, hunted elk with the most. I have a friend that drew a once-in-a-lifetime Idaho moose tag, so I've been going with him, and I'm just out there as another set of eyes. But I've been carrying this rifle in case for some reason his rifle fails. I can hand him this and he can finish the job. And so it's all covered in dust. It's been hiked with, it's been in an ATV getting all dusty. And by the way, we've seen bull moose every day we hunted that he could have killed. He's looking for something that'll go in the record book because it's a once-in-a-lifetime kill in Idaho. And we have seen one record book bull. Trying to find him again is turning out to be problematic. But we saw him, looked at him, and then put the move on him. He was on private property when we saw him, so we couldn't trespass. Anyway, he's right on the edge of BLM land. And that's not Black Lives Matter. That's Bureau of Land Management, which is about as useless as Black Lives Matter.
Okay, so funny story about that, just because we're on the subject. So you've had many occasions where we've been out hunting, or you've been out no, actually not hunting, just hiking. We do a lot of hiking with these rifles or any rifle, and you run into Fish and Game, and they just give you the hardest time if you're wearing camo or you're carrying a rifle, and they just try to stop you. And tell some stories about that, because people appreciate the BS that we deal with.
Oh, I was with my ex-wife once, who drew a coveted rifle Unit 29 tag, and we were glassing elk the day before season over in Unit 29, and Fish and Game came by and stopped, and he goes, I see you have Montana plates. And you can't trust these guys. They're always setting you up. So I looked at him and I said, well, I'm glad you don't need glasses, And he's like, well, I just get a little suspicious when I see somebody with out-of-state tags, dressed in camo, glassing elk up on a hillside. And I said,
outside of season.
Yeah, it was the day before season. And I said, well, you know, if it's your job description to be stupid and suspicious, go ahead. But I have nothing to say to you. Now, we are sitting here glassing elk up on a hillside. You can either leave or I'm going to leave. I don't have to answer your questions. I don't give a rat's ass if you're suspicious of something. I don't care about you. And you are, at this point, interfering with our enjoyment of the great outdoors. So what's it going to be? Either get back in your truck and boogie, or I'm going to leave. Well, he started talking to me again, so I just started the truck up and drove off. And these guys are not your friends. They're not coming along to be helpful or nice or kind. They're coming along to say something, to get you to say something, to set you up so they can give you a ticket or act like the big man on campus or whatever it is that's up their little ego place where ego should be shoved. And I don't talk to them. You don't have to talk to them. You don't care if they're suspicious. You don't care if they don't like you. You don't have to get along with these people. So start sticking it to them, and maybe they'll learn to be public servants instead of, forest pests.
Well, because another thing they say to you often is, well, then why are you carrying a rifle?
Because I want to.
Yeah, if you're not hunting, why are you carrying a rifle? And you'll respond to them.
I always do, because I want to. You got a problem with that? If you do, I don't care. And I go out in the woods with rifles all the time. Like Kim said, we do a lot of hiking. There may be no seasons open for anything in June or July or August, but we're out hiking with rifles. And I have a habit of sitting down on the edge of a canyon, ranging rocks at, out to 500-600 yards or, up to 100 yards and shooting them and getting my practice in. I like to shoot. So maybe that's why I'm carrying a rifle. I had
it's none of their business.
Yeah, it's none of their damn business. I had a Montana U.S. Forest Service guy stationed in Montana that started grilling me, and I was carrying this 340 Weatherby. I remember it's back in the day when I carried it. I was in Montana camped, but I was hunting in Idaho. We just walk right over the Continental Divide and hunt the Idaho side, but there was good horse feed on the Montana side. And this dickwad said, well, I told him my story. I said, we're not hunting Montana. We're hunting Idaho. And we were. And this dillwad goes, well, I don't believe you. And I'm like, well, I don't give a shit what you believe. He goes, well, answer me this. Is there a shell in your chamber? I said, of course. It's a gun. He goes, well, what's a shell in your chamber for? And I said, for shooting. What do you think it's in there for? And he goes, shooting what? And I said, whatever. And I looked him in the eyes. I was getting fed up. I said, whatever I determine needs to be shot. So anyway, long story short, he apologized because I told him he was going to get a beating that he would never walk right from if he kept it up. He apologized and we started over. I'm not impressed. He said, I'm Forest Service, level 3 law enforcement. I'm like, I don't care if you're level 1 million. You're paid by the public to be a public servant. Start acting like one. So that's how I deal with those people. Slight divergence in subject matter. Thanks, Kim.
Speaking for the people.
The Jerry Miller 338. I bought this long after Jerry had died. I bought it used, of course. It was unfired. All I've done with it is work up a load. It doesn't really like the Barnes bullets. I tried the 225 grain Nosler partition and shoots those very nicely. And it's got really nice engraving coverage and some gold inlay. It's on a beautiful piece of wood, and if I just get in an eccentric mood, I'll take it out and hunt with it. Built on a Mauser FN, commercial style action, and I rather like tang safeties. I can have my finger up here on the trigger, and operate the tang safety, whereas that 3-position safety, I do have to take my finger away from the trigger to get my thumb to manipulate it, and it's loud if you don't ride the safety as you move it, whereas these little tang safeties, I can operate them quietly and keep my finger in the vicinity of the trigger. This is a super duper rifle. And a comment on recoil. You know, everybody thinks the 338 Win Mag recoils a lot. Well, it really doesn't. If the stock fits you right, the felt recoil, it's no different than shooting a 7mm mag or a 300 Win Mag, or for that matter, even a 0.6. This rifle, empty, there's no ammo in it or on it, with the scope is 7 pounds, 15 ounces. That's all this thing is. And I don't have any problem at all with the recoil, shooting prone or any other way that sometimes you feel recoil more, shooting prone. This 338 is even lighter. It's 7.5 pounds with no ammo in it or on it. And this was built by Daryl Holland on a Remington Action for me. He didn't do any lightweight treatment on it like some gunsmiths will do on a Remington Action, because I was chambering it in 338 and having a minimalist stock put on it, so I really didn't want it any lighter. 7.5 pounds is plenty light. 22-inch barrel, nice little loopholed scope on it, and I've killed elk with this one too, just not very many. I'm probably limited to 3 or 4 or 5 elk that I've killed with that rifle. This rifle is a 338-06 with a really short barrel, and I carry it all the time on a horse. And it's more of a summer rifle. I don't really go hunting with it because of the range limitations on a 338-06. The reason I use 338s if I'm really serious about elk hunting, and I've killed elk with countless cartridges really, but I've got some big bull elk. There's one in the kitchen there that's a 380 something gross inch bull elk. He's a legit 7x7. And my experience with elk, which is pretty significant experience, the giant bulls like that, they don't stand around in open meadows like you see the pictures in magazines or on the internet. Generally, when I run into a bull like that, it's in fairly heavy timber, and he's generally moving away from me at an accelerated pace. So with a 338, I can shoot him in the hip, I can shoot him in the guts, or if I have the chance, I can do a typical double lung shot. But with the 338, and don't tell me this is unsporting and all this other baloney, I can shoot them right up the tutor as they're running away if I think it's a giant bull, and the 338 will anchor them. Even a gut shot with the proper 338 ammo, they don't run 100 yards, even gut shot. The 338 hammers them, and it's flat shooting. It's almost as flat shooting as the 7 mag with 175 grain bullets. If you're shooting 225 or 210 grain bullets, it's almost as flat shooting. It's a tad flatter shooting than the 30-06 with 180 grain bullets, which is a flat shooting cartridge. So that's why I use 338s so much. And I've killed several, well, I can't say several, I'm trying to count them, 4 record book elk, bull elk in regular season where you just buy a tag and hunt. And that's because I get way back where the elk are. It's because I understand elk, I know how to hunt them. And because I use a cartridge that allows me the margin of error that if I have to shoot them in the hip or up the butt because they're running away, or if I have to shoot them in the guts because that's all I can see when they're in heavy timber, I anchor them every time. Haven't had one get away yet. So, and I've killed a lot of bull elk.
So it's very humane, much more humane than nature would allow.
Oh yeah, a pack of wolves will take them down and eat them half alive before they die. If they die of old age, they starve. and freeze to death. And then a pack of wolves gets them. I mean, it's not pretty how nature is ugly. For all its beauty, it's ugly. Okay, this rifle, trying to remember who built it for me. This rifle only has a 19-inch long barrel. And you can see there's ammo in the magazine box. This rifle is what I carry on a horse often. I want a thumper for grizzly, but I still want something in the summer that, you know, it has an optic on it. This is a 2.5 to 8 loophole. Nice, compact, small scope, but I can dial it up to 8 or dial it down to 2.5. And the 338-06, just there's almost no recoil to it. And it's got a lot of oomph up front. If I have to kill a grizzly with it, I can. Last fall, I took the same kid that has the moose tag now. I took him elk hunting last fall, and he killed a nice 6x6 bull elk. And we quartered it out and left it in the shade up there. And it snowed on us that night, so we couldn't even get a horse trailer up that road to ride in and pack it out the next day. And that's fine. When they're quartered and cooled properly, the meat will keep in the snow for a long, long time. And so the following day, the snow melted off and we were able to get a horse trailer up the road full of horses, and we rode in there. And then when we got in the real steep, snotty parts, we tied up our riding horses and just led the pack horses by hand. I took this rifle. The short barrel comes out of a really short scabbard fast. You can see all the horse sweat on this scabbard. I've used the heck out of it. I love leather when it gets all weathered and worn. There's nothing warmer than nice leather.
The smell is beautiful.
Yeah, the smell, the feel, the look. Anyway.
Don't rechamber that, because I'm afraid YouTube will...
No, I'm not going to.
Okay.
But I had this rifle. I took it with me just to pack elk out. When this kid was hunting, his name is Sean Johnson. He doesn't mind me using his name on the air. When he was hunting, I was carrying a 375 H&H just because I wanted to. But when I went back up there to pack out that elk, I wanted a short rifle for handiness. And there was a grizzly sow with just about a 2-year-old, probably a 1.5-year-old cub on that elk. And thankfully, they had eaten all the guts and everything and had left the quarters alone. They ruined a little meat. And when they heard us coming, they picked up one of the hind quarters and tried to run up the hill with it. But Mama lost her nerve and just took off running anyway. And that's, this is a perfect pack out your elk meat rifle in grizzly country, because it's a thumper for grizz. And if I want to hunt with it, I'm okay with this out to 300 yards hunting elk. Anyway, the short handiness of it makes it work super good for me and my purposes. So it's a summertime rifle that I use if I want to scope. And I use it for packing out elk, things like that, if I want to scope. Folks, the 338 Win Mag shoots flat. It hits really hard, does all kinds of damage. It is my elk cartridge of choice. And yeah, I've killed 100 bulls or more, okay? And if you want to call me a liar...
Come visit us.
Yeah, come sit down, share a coffee with me.
Be a man.
Yeah, and say that to my face, and I will explain to you how you don't know what you're talking about, okay? Now, hopefully this video is of some use. And folks, we want you to have a great day, and God bless. We'll see you on the next video.